Hello and welcome back to Two Chicks and a Horror Flick. I'm Tawny Ray.
And I'm Felicia Connor.
And tonight we are talking about the brand spanking new Candyman from this year, 2021. 2021.
2021.
One.
And a one.
So, but first, couple things of business. What are you drinking?
I thought you were going to say the couple things because you're like, oh. So I'm drinking some rosé is what I'm drinking this evening. And it is called d'Autrefois Pinot Noir Rosé from France. And it's yummy.
Fancy.
It's very yummy. And I mean, we didn't have it flown in from France. We got it at Total Wine, but it's good. I've been on this rosé kick. Rosé. I don't know. I've done it before. And then
I feel like rosé is a very summer drink.
Yeah, I feel like it's my truly.
Oh, okay.
Recently. Yeah. How about you? I also have water. Big jug of it.
Nice. I also have a big jug of water this time.
Nice.
Because I need to hydrate. But in addition to water, I also have some Trulies to drink.
Nice.
Yes. And I was going to give a patron shout out. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna do it. But this might be a part two. I was going to,
but
I'm not anymore.
Screw it.
No. So Brooke from the A Podcast on Elm Street podcast is a patron, and somehow in the shuffle we didn't give him a Patreon shout out.
That's shit right there. We're sorry, Brooke.
We're so sorry. I don't know how that happened. We apologize profusely. But in the meantime, Felicia and I talked about like, okay, how about our patrons? We let them give like a little quick hot take that we read from them, like a little message, like whatever they want to tell the people, you know, like, I don't know. Rob Zombie's Halloween Rocks. That would be Josh's, I'm sure. Something like that. And so I was like, hey, what do you want us to say? And I haven't gotten anything yet. So there will be a part 2. I'll do an update, and we should probably get everybody else's who's a patron too. So
yeah, I like
more
that.
to come on that.
I like that. You know, the nice thing though for Brooke is he wasn't lumped in with all the other patrons.
That's true. You get your own episode. Yes. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you for your patronage. You're amazing.
I would like to do a shout out. I would like to shout out, not a patron shout out, but I work with possibly one of our biggest fans. Her name is Christine.
Okay.
I work with her in my day job. She is so awesome and excited. She's so excited about our podcast. She listens to it while she's cooking dinner. She said the sweetest thing ever. Hopefully she doesn't mind that I'm saying this. I don't think she will. She's really chill. But she's like, oh, yeah, when you talk about things on your podcast, I'm like, oh, yeah, I know that because I've talked to you about it. Like I have the inside scoop of the Two Chicks and a Horror Flick. She's so fun. And then like every single time we're like say in a meeting or, you know, the work that we do, like today, they're like, oh, what's everyone doing this weekend? And I'd mentioned, well, I'm recording tonight and then we're doing this. And she immediately goes, oh, can we get the inside scoop on what movie you're going to be talking about? And like, and she's so excited about it. So I wanted to shout her out. She is becoming like rapidly one of our biggest fans and listens to all the episodes. So
that's awesome.
We love you, Christine.
Yes. Thank you, Christine. What up? Hello. Nice to not kind of meet you, but kind of meet you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I watched with Tawny, You're Next for We Love Horror. So you can go check out that episode on the We Love Horror podcast where we talk to Michael about You're Next.
And Felicia not like it so much. Break my heart. Go listen to that episode over on the We Love Horror podcast.
You know what I think we should do once we've given a little time? I think we should watch it and we should do it, you and I. I got all of my irritation and aggression out on the acting on Michael's podcast. And then maybe I can move past that. And we can.
You just got to start it at the dinner scene. You got to just fuck everything
what if I
before
do that?
Then.
I'll do that. I'll start at the dinner scene and watch it.
Yeah. I think I only listened to one episode and it was in preparation for this conversation is I listened to Homies of Horrors episode on the original Candyman, because I've seen the original Candyman, but it's been like a couple years or whatever. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back and watch it. I don't know if it's for free anywhere, you know, like I don't want to rent it again or anything. So I listened to that to prep for it. And it is so, so, so good. Such a good episode. Highly recommend you go check it out. And then I ended up watching it anyway, because it's on Peacock, which we have now. So anyway,
I wish I would have watched it.
The original?
Yeah. When I was sitting there watching the opening, I was like, oh, I wish because I watched it years and years ago. I wish I would remember what exactly happened.
Yeah.
I recognized the woman from the original one. And
oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I didn't really remember much at all about the story. So
yeah, you don't need to have seen the first one, but I'm sure it's cool to be able to like connect the dots. And now you should, if you have Peacock, I highly recommend going back and rewatching the first one. But
okay. I thought I would do that.
Yeah. I might as well just right now say I love, and I'm just going to spoil this. I'm sure at some point, maybe later down the line, we'll watch the first one and talk about it. But I love the first one. There is something so, I'm going to use this word again, but I was thinking it before we even recorded, special about this movie. Like it really stands apart, I think, from the other movies that were being made around the same time. It has like this very interesting vibe. It's very scary. And also it's like very romantic. And it's just fucking good. There's something that I just cannot help myself but appreciate. And the movie takes itself so seriously, which I appreciate. I'm sure if you've listened to a handful of episodes, you know, I'm not a fan of the like 80s zany type of shit, you know? And so I think there was a moment in the late 80s, early 90s that horror movies started taking themselves real serious. And I love those movies. And I think Candyman is one of them because it like really set out to be a scary horror movie. And I think it really succeeded, and it still holds up today. So
I'm going to watch it.
That's my soapbox on the first one.
Yeah, I told my husband, because he went and saw this one with me. I was like, I think I'm going to watch the original just to like remember.
Yeah.
Okay,
so right off the bat, I think it's fair to say, and I want to say, that this movie, as a thematic pull all the way throughout the movie, is very racially tied. And we are two white women talking about this movie. So we're going to have, obviously, like our white woman lens on it. And I think it's worth just saying that if you listen to reviews like this, I recommend that you go listen to other reviews from Black podcasters, Black content creators on YouTube or whatever. And in the process of doing research, I did watch a handful that I can put these links as resources in somewhere. I don't know, or Discord, or like maybe I can put it on Instagram, but I don't think you can click on links. Anyway, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, we could put it in our link tree or something like that. Yeah.
So I recommend that. And like I said, I listened to Homies of Horrors Candyman episode. Highly recommend that. They were it was such a good episode. And I think they're going to do a Candyman on the new one. It's not out yet, but I think that is in the plans. They were super excited to see it. So definitely check them out. They're our podcast buds. They're awesome. And then the other thing is, like, I just want to say up front that I did the research for this, and I'm going to kind of, like, most of the research is how people feel about this movie or like themes and stuff. But I am certainly no fucking expert. Like, obviously, again, being a white woman, I have no idea what the experience of a Black person is. And so I just want to preface that I'm going to do what I can in terms of research and connecting dots and stuff. But like, I'm not an expert. I don't know a lot about that, obviously, because it's not my lived experience.
Yes, I think that's beautifully put. We're not trying to present ourselves as experts.
Like that way, yeah. So with that being said, Is there anything else that you wanted to? I feel like we're skipping over something. I
You
don't know.
I think that we don't have our little intro, that we're going to have an intro one day that says all the mumbo jumbo about, we curse. And if you don't want to spoil this movie, we're going to spoil it.
I think we've forgotten to do that in the last, like, I don't know,
a lot
6
of them.
episodes.
We gave up, dude.
We did give up.
We just gave up.
We were just like, well.
Because we're constantly like, we curse, we're going to spoil the movie. And we're just like, forget it. We have this idea, like, we're going to create a disclaimer at the beginning that kind of goes with the music. And so we don't have to say it at all.
Yeah.
And we tried it a couple times. We didn't like the way it sounded. And then we're just like, fuck it.
Yeah, we're just like, whatever. And then it just became too big. Like, we were kind of like, oh, we should probably put, like, where you can find us on social media. And then we should also say all these disclaimers. And then I was just like, shit, this is going to be like a minute-long intro. Like, I don't know. I can't do that either. Anyway, we're going to spoil the fuck out of this movie. So if you haven't seen it, go see it. Come back. I also recommend going and seeing this in the theater because it was visually stunning.
Hell yeah.
So anyway.
You know what, though? That's a good, not to beat a dead horse. One of my favorite sayings. It's weird. For our podcast, I really do. You don't have to see the movie, but I really do think that you should, because Tawny and I, we go wherever the hell we want.
Yeah.
In our conversation. So we do not give you a breakdown. We're just going to, and the beginning and the end and the middle and the end and the beginning. We're just going to go wherever our minds take us. So if you've seen it, it'll probably be helpful. So you know what we're talking about.
Right. And we try to remember to talk about what we're talking about. Like, we'll be like, yeah, like in the scene where like this happens, blah, 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 blah. Like, we try to do that. Sometimes we forget,
It's no guarantee.
We're all over the place. So good call out, Felicia.
We've tried to do it before. It did not work. We started and then boom, it was straight to the end.
It never works. It never works. Yeah. Anyway, we're too excited about specific shit we want to talk about, obviously. So yeah, it is what it is. Okay. So this was directed by Nia DaCosta. And a lot of people like reference Jordan Peele. He was on it as a producer. And he also, I think, partially wrote the script. But I just say that to say, like, I think a lot of people are calling it Jordan Peele's Candyman. Yeah. And I want to say that she has achieved history already as the first Black female filmmaker to open a movie at #1 from this movie.
What? I just got cold chills.
Isn't that awesome?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So for cast, we've got Yahya Abdul-Mateen II as Anthony McCoy, Tiana Paris as Brianna Cartwright, Nathan Stewart Jarrett as Troy Cartwright, Coleman Domingo as William Burke, and Vanessa Williams as Anne Marie McCoy. I didn't get a ton of people in here. It's just where I left it. They're the main players.
Anne Marie McCoy. Which one was that?
So that's his mom. That's Anthony's mother.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
And she was actually she was the woman in the first one, Candyman. She looks the fucking same, dude.
Oh, shit. See, it's things like that. Like, I wish I would have seen the first one, Go ahead. Sorry.
If you get a chance, just anybody listening and Felicia, look up a picture of her in the original versus the picture of her in this movie. I swear to God, she doesn't look any older. It's crazy.
Wow. I'm just looked at it. You're right.
Yeah.
Dang.
So that's really cool that she has she returned in this movie. Okay, so the budget was $25 million box office so far. I don't actually know how long they count box office numbers, so this could go up, but as of now, it sits at $32 million. IMDb gave this an 8.3 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 85%, and 80% of Google users liked this movie so far. Again, that changes, but okay, so let's get into 2 minutes with Tawny. This is kind of long, and I'm going to be honest, I pulled the last 2 paragraphs. I just straight copied and pasted from Wikipedia because I felt like this is going to do a much better job than what I could write myself. And I had some questions about that part of the movie. I'm sure we'll get there later in talking about it, but I just felt like this really summarized it better than I could have. So I'm just saying that so that I didn't plagiarize it. I mean, I did, but I'm not. But plagiarizing is pretending like it's yours, right? And it's
yeah,
not.
you didn't plagiarize if you gave credit. You gave the credit where credit is due.
Right. So anyway, okay, so here we go. Artist Anthony McCoy becomes obsessed with the story of Helen Lyle, a student doing a thesis on the urban legends of Cabrini Green in the 90s. She snapped, went on a killing spree, and abducted a baby who she tried to burn in the annual bonfire. The baby is saved, but she dies in the fire in the middle of this community. Anthony visits what remains of the Cabrini Green housing project and bumps into William Burke, who's been a resident there. I don't know if he's actually still a resident there, but he was a resident in the 70s when he had an encounter with the Candyman. He tells Anthony about Sherman Fields, a man with a hook for a hand who handed out candy to kids. Once razor blades were found, Sherman went into hiding. William alerted the police to his location, and they brutally beat and killed him in front of the young William. But when the razor blades kept showing up, they realized Sherman wasn't responsible. Now, if you say his name in the mirror 5 times, he appears behind you and kills you.
Well, Candyman, not his name, Sherman.
This inspires Anthony, who becomes engulfed in creating and tells his girlfriend, Brianna, all about the legend. A previous bee sting begins to move up his arm and looks real fucking gross, I put. He finally goes to talk to his mom, who reveals Anthony was/is the baby from the legend of Helen, but it was Candyman who really took him, and Helen was the one who saved him from the fire. After the bonfire, the Cabrini Green community vowed never to speak of Candyman again. This is where I copied and pasted from Wikipedia. Worried about Anthony, Brianna realizes that Burke first told him about the Candyman and goes to Cabrini Green to find them. At the laundromat, she is attacked by Burke, who takes her to an abandoned church where Anthony, his body continuing to deteriorate, is waiting. Anthony enters into a fugue state and tries to save her, as Burke reveals that he not only witnessed Sherman's death, he also saw Sherman's spirit returning as the Candyman and witnessed him kill his older sister and a friend who summoned him. Burke plans to have the police gun Anthony down to create a new legend with the Candyman as an instrument of vengeance rather than a symbol of black pain and suffering. To complete Anthony's transformation into the Candyman, Burke saws off his right hand and replaces it with a hook. Brianna manages to escape the church and is chased through Cabrini Green by Burke, whom she viciously stabs to death. Anthony appears. I only laugh because that was very vicious.
Yeah.
It was insanely
She was
gory.
sick of being chased by that guy.
Yeah. Yes. Anthony appears and collapses into her arms as the police, lured to the scene by Burke, show up and shoot Anthony dead. Brianna is arrested and handcuffed, and as an officer attempts to intimidate her into agreeing that Anthony provoked the police into shooting him, Brianna uses the police car's rear view mirror to summon the Candyman. He appears, now in Anthony's guise, and massacres the police. As more police arrive at the scene, Anthony takes on the appearance of the Candyman that we know from the first movie, Tony Todd's Candyman, and instructs Brianna to tell everyone. The end.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That was good.
That was 6 minutes with Tawny. I don't actually know how long it was. But Felicia, you start. How did you feel about this movie?
I really liked this movie. There's some stuff that we'll get into, not much, but a couple questions or what have you, that we'll talk about. But overall, it was fucking beautiful. Visually, absolutely stunning. And there's some parts of it that I really liked. And so I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie. And I gotta say right off the bat, I fucking loved those little paper doll puppet. You called it puppeteers?
Puppetry?
Puppetry.
Yeah.
Because I was just calling them the paper dolls. Loved it. Oh, and I thought it was so pretty and haunting. Fucking loved it. I was the only one, me and 2 other people that stayed at the end. That was one of my favorite parts, was the closing credits, and just watched it all the way through and just absorbed it. Even my husband went, I gotta pee. And I went to the bathroom, but I was sitting there, just entranced with this. But I really liked it. How about you, Tawny?
I wish I would have watched all of the end credits. But here's the situation. Shockingly, Jade and I were one of 2 couples in the theater. We went to see it on Sunday. So I just thought it was going to be busier than that. But I don't know. So it was just us and one other couple. And the other couple got up and left right away. And then we sat there kind of watching it. And then the movie theater people came in. And it's a small theater. So it's not like there's a ton of room. But they came in like they were about to clean. And then like, oh, sorry. And stood there right next to the stairs. And so we like felt the pressure. Like we were like, oh no, like we probably need to leave. Like I was just about to pull out my phone and see if there was an after credits scene. Even though the stuff was happening in the moment, I wondered if there was something after that even. And usually I don't think of it until then. And then I try to Google it or whatever. But I was just like we were all just nervous. Like we were like, okay, we got to get out of their way so they can clean after these 4 people plays.
Yeah, but it was really beautiful. It wasn't just like, it really told a story about all of these different people. So those fucking people at your movie theater should be reprimanded.
That's true.
Don't go in there so early.
Write them up.
It's not like it was just a dark screen with words. There was a lot happening. It was really beautiful, but I liked it.
Right as we walked past them too, there was like a girl and a guy, and they were like pretty young, I think teenagers. And the girl was like, "This is creepy."
Oh God. She was flirting probably with that guy though.
This is creepy.
Hold me while we clean. Clean next to me.
I'm scared.
Let's hold hands while we clean the theater. From the 4 people that were in here.
We didn't even like leave any trash. We just brought like a bottle of water.
We got to get in there and clean this shit up.
I know. They really don't have a lot to do. Every time we've been to this theater, it's like the one closest to our house. It is dead. It was like that for A Quiet Place 2. Or no, that's a lie. A Quiet Place 2 had a huge group of teenagers come in. I forgot about this. I was like, they must have all been together. They must have come in on a bus or something. Like they were seriously all together. But the other movie, Spiral, is what it was. We went to go see that. And there was seriously like one other person in the theater. I just must not be very busy. I don't know. Anyway.
It was the same for us. There was just about 10. There was 10 people in this movie. But when we saw Spiral, there was only about 4 additional people. And I always think, I should wear 2 Chicks in a Horror Flick shirts for the 4 people.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, they like horror. I'm just kidding. Anyways, I liked it. What about you?
I have had a little bit of a roller coaster. Overall, I like this movie too. I think I would even say I really like it. I think there are some moments that I got really confused on, and it definitely is like a little messy, it feels like. And so some stuff fell short, I think, for me. But I did not hate it by any means. I thought it was also visually stunning. I liked a lot of what they did. Like, and so it's interesting because I've been, like I said, on a roller coaster. Like right after I watched it, I was like, I liked that. But then after I thought about it, because this is unusual. Felicia and I both saw this a week ago, pretty much. And so we've had like a good amount of time, more than usual, to like sit and think about it. And then I took a dip and I started to be like, I don't really understand a lot of what happened. And like, I'm really confused. What about this and that? And like, this thing came up and never paid off. Like, what is that about? Like, I just was really unsure. And then through the process of doing the research and starting to like realize what the intention was, I've started to like it even more. And so I think it'll be an interesting conversation. I think, there was just some stuff that was like lost in translation while watching the movie that I started to learn when I was doing the research. So anyway,
I feel like
that's where I landed.
Spot on.
Yeah.
Like when I left, I was like, I know I like it, but what is this feeling? And I think it was and it was really hard to articulate for me the pieces I felt were maybe, like you said, a little muddy.
Yeah.
Like I can't pinpoint them, but there's definitely something there. And honestly, talking to my husband, he was the same. Because as we talked about the themes or talked about like different things, he was like, yeah, I like that. No, I liked that. But there's, yeah. So I'm excited for this conversation because I knew you were doing the research and that some of that would be able to come up and be fleshed out.
Yeah. So maybe let's try, like that doesn't ever work. Let's just start at the beginning. Because one of my first notes is I loved how we started off the movie, even just with the companies that made it, as a mirrored image, right? Oh. So it's like you're looking through the mirror. You're in the mirror looking outwards. And I was like, I was getting like really giddy about it. I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I like it. So it was cool.
I loved it. I started that way. And then I was like, oh, fuck. Is it in backwards? Like, then I started to get paranoid that there was something wrong with the way they ran the film. And I was like, shit, are they going to catch it? And because it was everything. Yeah. And then I was like, honey, is this intentional? He's like, I think it's intentional. And then when they opened up to the street and I saw the street sign and the street sign was normal, I was like, oh yeah, that was intentional. Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay. And then you've got, though, the, title sequence, like upside down, but pointed up.
Oh, sometimes you see looking up, but sometimes it looks like you're looking down.
Yeah,
like
it's really
looking down
weird.
And maybe the fog is low and then looking up and looking. That was fucking cool.
Really cool. And here's a little tidbit. So the opening credits of the original movie are featured. They feature footage, like top-down footage of Chicago. So you're looking down at the buildings. So it was just an interesting choice to do the opposite. And it really kind of makes you feel uneasy because it's really weird. It's a really weird way to look at the buildings. So I just really liked all of this. I thought it was really cool and well done. And it reminded me of a different movie that I can't remember. I think the name might be Mirror or something, but it's another horror movie. It has to do with mirrors, obviously.
No way.
I can't say anything else though, because I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look at my notes and go. I know I'm trying to go in order.
Okay, so can I bring up something? I think this is beginning-ish.
Okay, go ahead.
That I thought, I guess to stay in the beginning, I liked all the characters. And so there's that. And then what was felt a little confusing to me was when Anthony was talking to the gallery guy. It seemed like they had a good relationship in the beginning. Like the gallery guy seemed like I don't really know what he did in the gallery, but the gallery guy or the art guy, seemed like he was giving him constructive feedback. Anthony did not, to me, and Steve, my husband as well, look upset. It almost looked like he was saying, hey, you're not giving me what I need. And he's like, yeah, he already knew that, and it seemed like they were having just like a normal conversation from like an agent, gallery, whatever the guy was, to the artist. That seemed like a normal conversation. Then we move into the gallery opening or the opening, and that guy was a fucking dick. And they obviously really hate each other. That was kind of for me, an odd, it was odd how this all of the sudden he hates Anthony, because I did not pick that up.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, like totally. There is kind of a disconnect between that scene and then the later scene. Because you're right, I didn't pick up on any of that either in the first scene. There's definitely undertones of him being like exploiting Anthony's trauma, I think, for the sake of art, right? Which I'm only introducing because like it is kind of a meta theme, I think, of this movie that maybe we'll get into later. And so it's like, that's an interesting moment, just that I'm putting a pin in. But maybe he seems like he's exploitative. Is that the right word? Anyway.
I like it.
But he's not like, I fucking hate this guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying.
Definitely that guy was like an insensitive, and it was, because he was like, well, I could talk about, this. And he was like, oh yeah, that's hot right now. Like that's kind of a hot thing right now. Yeah. But Anthony didn't seem too bothered by it, or it just didn't seem like they were upset at each other, even though that guy was obviously a douche. It wasn't like he hates Anthony and thinks he's a piece of trash and he's only there because his girlfriend.
Yeah, you don't get that until way later. Yeah. So I agree that it was a weird thing. Aside from that, just to back up, and you already mentioned this, but I needed to also say, I don't know why I feel the need to say this, but I need to say that I fucking love the background puppetry show of like getting us caught up to what happened. Because at the end of the first movie, you are left with this like, Helen has now become part of the legend. And she is now another scary story, a story of, what is it? A cautionary tale to tell people about Candyman. And like Candyman gets lost in translations, but we have a reason for that later. That again, we'll get to later. But so I loved this moment because it's good for audiences, because if you haven't seen the movie at all or in a long time, you need this background information.
Yes.
And I just thought it was really a fucking clever and visually amazing way to show it. I mean, it's just so well done. I was like, where was this puppetry? Shadow puppets, shadow paper puppets. Where have they been all my life?
So I just want more of them. But I don't want it to be overdone in every movie,
right.
But I just want more of this. This should be a thing, just like, claymation's a thing, because it's just so beautiful and haunting. You can feel the emotions of these little puppets. And you're right. So the reason I don't ever go in sequence with these movies is I don't really remember what happened in what sequence.
Either.
I fucking love this. I was absolutely mesmerized. And that was the one thing I wished I'd seen the original movie, is because I was trying to remember, did she kill the baby? Did she sit? Like, I don't even remember this from the beginning of the original movie because I saw it so many years ago.
Yeah.
So that's what I kind of wanted to remember. So because I knew, I remember her being a good person. So I don't think she went and killed the baby and was bathing in Rottweiler blood. But there must have been something that happened, just like with all legends or urban legends or what have you, where there is truth to it, and it has now become this crazy, wild, scary story.
Yeah.
So I wanted to remember what the truth was to it.
Yeah. I mean, I totally think you should go back and rewatch the first one, because it's so good. It holds up, and you get to see the inner workings of how this came out to play later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's not that, but she looks like that from the outside, because she's just to give a little backstory, if you haven't seen it in a long time, she's in each of the places that Candyman kills somebody. So she looks fucking guilty because she shows up, she just wakes up there in a pool of blood.
Shit.
And so obviously the fucking cops are like, it's you.
Everybody would think that.
And then she's freaking out and she's like, it's not me, it's fucking Candyman. I don't even remember if she says that necessarily, but they put her in a psych ward, obviously. So again, like, this is part of why I like this movie, is because it's all just like different than how you expect it to go for like a typical movie in that time frame. Like, they just run away or whatever. I like how Candyman in a way is like putting her in a position to look like she's the one doing these murders. He's like creating the legend that she becomes then.
Yeah.
Later. So she definitely looks guilty from the outside looking in, because she keeps showing up at these places where all these people are brutally murdered. Anyway.
Is there something, and when Tawny does research, I don't do any research at all. So please excuse if I sound ignorant. That's purposeful in the sense that I didn't do any research. I just experienced the movie. So is there something I thought it was interesting. The Candyman was representations of all of, maybe not all of, you'll probably clarify, but how it was at the beginning, all of the different Black men and children killed and, wronged throughout history. But this focus of this legend is now on this white woman journalist. Like, I know there's Candyman, but it's her name, that the story of her and what she did and how she took this baby when really it was Candyman should have been the focus of it. Or is that any?
Are you talking about in this movie or like at the end of the first movie?
No, not the end of the first movie. In this movie, because the legend was about her at this place and how she did this, took the baby and all of that.
Yeah. I think it's because of what I just said kind of like happened. And then in this movie, you hear Anthony's mom say, when she's explaining everything to him, she says, you know, I thought that she was guilty at first, right? And then I realized no, because she tried to save the baby, whatever. And he essentially took her. Candyman did, Helen. And we agreed to never speak of Candyman again. So I think that's why the story of Candyman sort of withers away by the time we get to now. And then they're telling the story of Helen. And then you see that it's kind of backed up later by that story with William, where he's telling him about it. And he's like, yeah, all these terrible fucking things happened. And one white woman goes crazy. Yeah. And everybody remembers that.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But on their end, it was intentional because they didn't want to speak his name ever again. But then now
I don't know if it's
twisted.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if that was their intent. Their intent was to take the power away from Candyman, I think.
Yeah. The intent was not to say his name because he's killing people. And it's like,
and then that was the unintended consequence, is that Helen becomes the, you know, forefront or the front runner in this story rather than Candyman himself.
An unintentional result. I like that, of them trying not to recall the Candyman. Yeah. Okay.
And I kind of already mentioned this, but I think a lot of what this movie is doing is being very meta about the first movie. And so some of the criticism of the first movie that I've read or heard is about like, they have this really, and again, like some of this I'm pulling from that Homies of Horror episode where they talk about the first Candyman. Like, they set up this very rich sort of like racially tied like setting, and also the story of Candyman himself. So it's based on a story by Clive Barker. And the story itself has nothing to do in the United States. It's like set in Europe or something. Like, it has no racial tie, like, at all. And so Bernard Rose, who is a white European director, took this and made the first Candyman. And he was the one to make the decision to move the setting to Chicago in Cabrini Green and make this story have some roots rooted in racism. And part of the criticism is they lay this groundwork, but nothing happens for the rest of the movie about that. Like, then the movie just becomes about the urban legend of Candyman. But if he was killed because, like, in a racist fashion, why wouldn't his revenge be on white people?
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Like, so I think that that's kind of some of the criticism of the first movie that they sort of address in this movie. And because of that, we're watching the first Candyman through this very white-centered female lens through Helen. She's an outsider coming into Cabrini Green, and she becomes the focus, the protagonist of the movie. When you have this like very rich history of Candyman as a character himself. Mm-hmm. And so I do think it's a, you know, by the time we get to that in this movie in the beginning, they're kind of poking at that and saying like, yes, that is how it is from that first movie. We're going to do our thing. We're going to do it through our lens this time.
Yeah. Can I just ask you? So one piece of it, I just want to make sure. I understand the Candyman is representations of these different people, like all those different stories. But he's not even representations of them, right? He is them.
I think so.
They were, right? They turn into him when they're killed?
I don't know. I don't know if it's that. Yeah.
Well, his representations, I know, like, throughout all of the history, but how I guess the reason I'm asking is how Sherman kind of pushed Anthony into, like, fully becoming him, I guess, you know, by doing all of that. Anthony was fighting it, you know, but you know, anyways, there was a struggle there. And so I guess so that now Anthony is that, I hope my confusion is kind of making sense. Like, I'm wondering how he's not just a ghost, right? That represents this and takes vengeance. Like, these people somehow become him, right? And
I don't really know. And I don't really think I don't think it's really super clear Like, I think that the sense is that all of these people add to and continue the chain of the legend of Candyman. But I don't think every single iteration of them have a hook for a hand. I could be wrong because I missed all of the end puppetry stuff. And
Yeah,
William Burke does say, like, there's a few consistencies throughout each of the stories. And that's right before he cuts off his hand and puts the hook in. So maybe that is
From
consistent.
what I remember, they did have hooks.
Okay.
In the little paper dolls.
Yeah.
In the end.
But I think that you are kind of you're left to be like, yeah, it's all kind of one and the same, right?
Maybe
like
it's the pain, the injustice.
I think
the
so.
The anger is Candyman. So is that why William cut his hand off and called the cops and everything so they would come in this flurry and kill him? Because I think he mentioned something about like having the cops shoot him or something like that so that he could fully become the Candyman or...
Yes, okay. I think so.
Okay.
And this is, you know what? Fuck it. Here we are. We're at the end. We went.
Sorry, guys. I tried so hard.
3 scenes on the front end, straight to the end. That's okay. Let's do it. Let's talk about it because I think this is the biggest thing that I left the movie feeling completely lost about. I mean, we'll talk about this later, but I want to answer your question first. But this back part of the movie, the climax and everything is just insanely, I mean, you get whiplash from it. It's like, what the fuck is happening? I have no idea how we got here. Like, you're just like, whoa, this is a lot all at once. And it feels like a different movie. It feels like there was so much cut out or something. Like, we're just here all of a sudden and now we're doing this.
Yeah, we're doing this.
I felt like when I left, I was like, I have no fucking idea. And maybe this just went over my head. Maybe William said something that was supposed to be like that was going to allude to what I'm going to tell you. And I just fucking missed it. But I was like, why the fuck is he doing this? I don't even understand his motivation. Like, I was like, what is the reason for why he's even cutting off his hand and doing this whole thing? Totally lost. But I came across a review, and again, I'll put this somewhere, this link, where they said, just like this movie, and this goes along with what we were just talking about, just like this movie is trying to build off of the first movie, it doesn't try to erase any of that. It's not a reboot. It doesn't like remake the first movie. It builds off of where the movie is first. And just like this movie is trying to shift Candyman a little bit and change the perspective on him so that it's like through a different lens, that is what William is also trying to do in this movie. Is he's trying to take this symbol and just like you said, like the collective trauma, I think it's a little bit more of like yes, it's like a collective trauma, but it's also the cyclical trauma. Like this has happened through generations and generations. Yeah. And it's a symbol, like I said, I copied and pasted from Wikipedia, of Black pain and suffering. And now I'm going to change this to be a symbol of justice. Maybe justice is the wrong word. What did they put?
I feel like, doesn't he say that?
Yeah, an instrument of vengeance. So it's a little different. It's a little different. But I think he must have said something like that.
Well, there feels like there's more power in vengeance than in trauma.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's why I think this is also, I was very confused about like, okay, she summons him, but he doesn't kill her.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too, because he didn't have any problem killing everybody.
Anybody who summoned him, yeah, is usually, I think he kills him. But this time it's different. And I think it's because he did succeed in making that shift. And I just thought that was a really nice like meta parallel. Like you're seeing what this movie is trying to do with Candyman in shifting it from being a story about this Black man through the white lens where like, you know, Helen is kind of centered. And also it's about like suffering to now Candyman is a symbol of vengeance. And, you know, all through the movie, William is talking about how he's upset about the gentrification and like persecution, essentially, that Black men are under. And so that's why he kills the cops, and he's like, tell everyone. So all of that like made more sense when I got that. But for some reason on viewing it, I was like, what in the fuck is going on? Maybe it just was like the shock of the scene and everything changing so rapidly. I don't know, but that's how I felt. I was like, where in the fuck are we? As soon as she wakes up in that church, from that point forward, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. What?
Yeah.
What?
I'm so glad you explained that, because I feel more, I feel more like I like it more.
Yeah,
I
totally.
understand it a little bit more, because definitely graphically it was gross, excellently done, like sawing off that hand with the, and then Anthony just, anyone that has that kind of disorder about holes is not going to like looking at Anthony at the end of this movie. But I was trying to listen to everything that William said, because I was like, oh, is he like resurrecting Candyman? That's what made me ask you about, maybe because Candyman, no one said his name, and the story was now about Helen, that he wanted to resurrect. And so and he has to do it by sticking the thing in his hand and then getting him killed by the cops.
Yes. So, and I do think that's where I was going with this. And I'm sorry, I lost that through that entire thing that I was saying. But I do think that is one of the elements that he mentions has to be the same. And it's that like he's killed by white men. And so that's why he calls the cops to that place. That's also something I missed. I don't know what was going on, you guys. Apparently I just wasn't, I couldn't hang on through the end of this, but I didn't pick up on the fact that he called the cops either. So I was like, okay, whoa, I don't understand. Where do these cops come from? Like, it just was, I was so fucking confused by the end, but he calls the cops. That's why, is because he needs all of this to be set in motion for him to become the newest iteration, I'm not sure, of Candyman. But there's this bent now where he's changed a little bit, you know?
Yeah, because he doesn't kill Brianna, right?
Yeah.
So he is truly taking out vengeance on those that deserve his vengeance, I'm saying, versus, teenage girls in the bathroom.
Anybody who summons me.
Anybody who says my name 5 times. And by the way, my husband missed that as well, that he called the cops.
Yeah.
I had heard that, like, it was quick, that I called the cops, blah, 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 and then he said other stuff. But my husband was like, in this abandoned neighborhood, and now there's just a swarm of cops. How did all these cops know he was here? And I'm like, the guy called him. And he's like, oh, he did? And like, yeah.
I was so lost. And like, I feel sometimes like, oh my God, I'm fucking old. Because I cannot hear anything, even in the theater now sometimes. I'm like, what? I keep having to be like, what did they say to Jade? Like, what did they say? It should be loud as fuck, but I swear to God, they turned it down. I don't think it's me. I think they turned down the volume on theaters because it was like too loud for people.
What's that?
And now I'm so used to watching everything with subtitles that like, I feel like I've untrained my ears.
She can't hear anymore because her sense of sight and reading is very, very high.
Like I've traded off.
Your sense of reading.
So yeah, you know what I mean? But I'm like, there were several moments in this movie that I'm sure I missed because I couldn't hear it. I was
okay. So everything you just said, now I think I feel better about this piece too. When Brianna was in the cop car and the cop gets in there and he's like, yeah, you're either going to take the fall and go to jail or you're going to say this. My logical mind, I was like, Brianna should be like, dude, fuck you. In her mind, at least. Maybe she doesn't want to say that to
obviously.
him. But in her mind, okay, take me to court. Because all of that DNA evidence at the fucking church is going to be William all over that toolbox, on the saw. Where's my DNA? Oh, on the duct tape that had my hands tied to the pew. So this is my logical mind. And so then when she's like, summons him, she felt like she had no other option or no way out. And it was like, I added to my I don't understand this. Maybe that's the point is maybe it's something deeper, like, because she was a Black woman, that she really didn't have another choice. Like maybe they would have done away with that evidence and all of that. Like maybe it's that, or maybe she did think like, dude, but it didn't matter because at that point he was someone that needed vengeance. Like maybe even the purpose of Candyman and it being Anthony and like everything came together, regardless of whether she thought this guy was full of shit and she could get out of it or not. Right. That's not the point. The point is this needs to stop. Yeah. This needs to stop. Maybe.
I do think she felt like she was out of options because they can make it look like whatever the fuck they want to, probably. Right?
Yeah, I guess if they cleaned up that church, then I mean, they can make it how,
It's like a he said, she said situation.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's just, she's the only one there at this point. The only one left, right? In this scene. Besides all the cops. I mean, right before he killed everybody, it's just her against everyone else at the scene and no one else knows, has any clue, right? So, that makes sense.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, but here's my other thing that I'm like really confused about. I was so lost on what actually happened with the shooting portion of it. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And again, like maybe this is me just like fucking drawing a blank or it's like way over my head because I'm viewing this through my own experience. But I was really confused about the fact that she beat the shit out of William. Mm-hmm. So he did. Okay. And then Anthony is laying in her lap. And then the cops come in and tell her to put her hands up. And I think she does. And then they shoot a bunch. And then she goes to feel her body because she's afraid she was shot.
Yeah, and I thought she was shot. She had blood on her hands. For a second, I thought she was.
But she doesn't react like she's getting shot, right? So, but then she checks. She hasn't been shot. And then I didn't remember this, but I was rehashing it with Jade earlier today. And he said that it cuts out and he's not there anymore. Anthony's gone from her lap. And then that's when the cops are like, yeah, you're going to do what we tell you. He was, like essentially they want her to lie and be like, he was a threat to us. That's why we shot him. Right. So I'm just really confused about what happened there. I don't know if he was in her lap and they shot at him in her lap, because logistically, I know that a bullet probably would stop in a body, but if somebody was getting shot on your lap, I feel like you would react differently than what she does.
Okay, so this also confused me. Yes.
This part I was like, I'm still totally lost.
So I think in the beginning you're supposed to kind of maybe think she got shot. Because it's confusing intentionally, though. Like she's feeling, there's blood on her hands. And we've seen that a lot in movies where someone goes like this, right? And they look at their hands and realize they're shot because there's blood on their hands. So at first I thought, oh, they shot her. And then she's like, Anthony wasn't in her lap?
That's what Jade said, but I don't remember that. I thought he was too.
And then she was like, that, oh, they shot him.
Yeah. But he was like, I think already dead.
Yeah, he seemed already dead. Okay, so I was curious about this as well. I thought it was, representing how, there's a lot of this going on, Black people being killed by the police. And it's like not
justified.
Justified. Yeah. It's like, and this is like the epitome of it. If he's laying there in her lap, like he's not even moving. So I thought, okay, maybe this is just like a really, really, I guess, blatant, like he's not even moving and we shot him. Sort of like, look, like sort of in your face, sort of, representing that these things happen. And but then the only other thing I was thinking is he was lying there. So if he was lying there and he looked dead, even so, they shouldn't have shot him. They also think this man has killed several teenagers brutally in a high school, a critic, a art guy. Like he's going around killing people. So he is very dangerous. Nobody knows he's innocent. We know.
Of
we
course.
know this, but nobody else, not even her till the very end, right? She's not sure. So it's just very confused about, I was confused about all this. I did not see that he wasn't in. Are you saying when she looks down, he's not there?
Yeah, because I think after
Totally
she looks down,
that.
there's a cut, and we cut out. It's a wider shot, and you
Of her?
see, in the room, and he's not there in her lap anymore. But Jade could be misremembering too, so I don't know. I don't remember exactly the sequence of how this plays out because again, you're watching her. You can only see her in the frame, from what I remember. And,
yeah.
But you know that he is in her lap.
Yes.
And then I thought when the cops came in and shot, I thought William hadn't died. I thought William got up and tried to like do something, was maybe approaching her, and that's who the cop shot. That's why I got super confused. Because again, I missed the fact that he's the one who called the cops. Whatever. So I just, this part gets
when does
really
she hold
muddy.
him and say, Anthony, stay with me, stay with me? Is that before the cops arrive?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I think it's like as they're arriving. So then they
Gotcha.
arrive and they come in and they're like, put up your hands. And
she's
she
kind of like
does.
this. Yeah.
And then they shoot. There's a bunch of gunshots. And then, she kind of, checks herself for the shots. And then I think there's that they walk away or something. I don't know. This part got muddy. I don't even remember. Me too. And so I'm sorry if I've just missed something here, but I just was like really confused because if they shot him while he wasn't moving on her lap, couldn't she have also been shot? Like, I don't know. I just like, wouldn't it have gone through his body into her potentially? And she seems unscathed.
It would have had to been like, in her leg or something, right? Because of how they came into the side here. They were like this to her side. So if they shot, they would be shooting down into diagonal at him. So maybe not like, it wouldn't have been like in her stomach or her chest, but she definitely wasn't shot in her legs or anything either. She wasn't, she wasn't hurt at all. So
yeah. So anyway,
or maybe he protected her.
Yeah. Oh, maybe
he protected her from
maybe
getting
it was
hurt.
I don't know what to call it. Supernatural type of protection or something.
This is definitely something I when it comes out on any of these streaming devices, I would like to take a look and rewatch the ending.
Oh, totally. Because I'm like, I must have missed something. Or again, there was stuff cut out, or they made choices not to show certain things to be able to, you know what I mean? Like, and it just got so muddy for me. But now knowing the intent of William and what he was trying to do and the elements that had to be in place then for him to become Candyman made me like this more. I agree with you because I was like so fucking lost and I was like, whoa, we just throw in all this stuff on the back end. Like it just, again, you kind of get whiplash. But then I was like, well, shit, that makes sense. And it makes sense why this is happening. It's very meta. And I like that about this movie, that they took what was already in existence from the first movie and like built on top of that, kind of changed it.
Yeah.
And it references itself in a very meta way constantly. And I really like that about it. But I couldn't help but still feel like the end was muddy, right?
Yeah.
Like we can recognize that the intent was there and the intent was like really cool, but it doesn't really play out like that, I think, when you watch it.
Yeah, I wish they could have had this exact same intent, done what they were doing, but in a different way. And I'm definitely not a director and do not know how, but just in a little bit different of a way. When he's killing everybody, I mean, the killing is neat. you know? But yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, because I just was like, what the fuck? Big dip while all of that was happening. But then as soon as she summons him through the mirror, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Like, I was like, okay. Like, I got the sense that, oh, she's about to use him as a tool against these cops and, like, escape because she's innocent. We don't want to see her fucking go to jail for this. Is fucking crazy.
Yeah, technically no one knows she's there.
Yeah.
Well, her DNA is going to be there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Unless she's never been in the system.
That's true.
They might not. They might be an unidentified female DNA was found at the scene.
But again, who controls those crime scenes? The cops.
Yeah, but they're all dead.
Well, they are now.
So they wouldn't.
Yeah, I was talking like pre-dead cops.
Oh, pre-dead cops. I mean, after dead cops. She technically can just run home because, I mean, how would they know unless her DNA is in the system?
Yeah.
Who the other DNAs were?
True. Totally. But I liked this part and I was like, oh, cool. She's going to use him. And I'm fucking stoked. And then as soon as the speech started happening where he was like talking about like himself in the ledge, I don't remember the exact words, but he's walking around the van and each pane has a different Candyman. Like I was like, oh, I'm here for this. So it was like really spiked back up after all of this very confusing stuff for me. Like I was like, fuck yeah. Like I don't know what's happening now, but I'm fucking here for it.
Yeah, I love that. It was beautiful. And can I just say, I loved him with like the bees and the fucking Candyman was awesome.
Yeah.
Like I just loved it. I loved all those bees swarming in the visual and kind of how he hovered sometimes. And like, I don't know. I really, really liked how they depicted him.
Me too. And I felt like it really harkened back to the first movie. And that's one of the things I like about the first movie is that it's very scary somehow. And some of the moments are like bordering on silly sometimes. But I really think they did a good job of making it scary without going way over the top because it's just Tony Todd, like floating or talking, you know, like he's just, but it's scary. Because it's so like outlandish, but again, it takes itself so seriously. It's not zany. It's really well done. And I feel like that's kind of, they pulled from that with him floating and like being very serious and giving the monologue while talking around the car. I just was like, this is it.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's just all swarm and that's what you can see. And that's
totally
why
shapeless.
Floats, right? It's just like bees. Oh, fucking cool. Okay. I want to say my very, very favorite scene of the entire movie. It's very quick and I thought it was so fucking cool. I get cold chills right now just thinking about it. Is when he is at the critic's house. Okay. Everything goes down, right? And he leaves. He's like losing his shit. He leaves. And then it pans slowly out. So I'm looking everywhere. I'm looking in all these rooms because they have all these different homes and people doing shit. And then all of a sudden I glance because I see the woman the critic walk into her living room. She's fucking up in the air and she's fucking moving around and smashes against the window and then blood. And it's just panning out quietly while all these other people are on it. I literally have cold chills right now. I thought it was so good. So fucking masterful. I don't even know if it's a word and it's a word for this. I loved this.
It was so good. I like this too a lot. And it calls back to that shot. There's a close-up shot of him painting earlier, and he does that same stroke. Did you catch that?
You just gave me double cold chills because I didn't. In the movie, I didn't. But yes. Yeah,
because he's painting, and he does that same brush stroke that he hits, pulls it all like horizontally. So the same thing happens with the critics. Like blood is so good. Yeah.
So fucking good, dude.
I agree that I think this was my favorite sequence of the movie as well, because I really like I like that scene a lot too. And I like the scene right before it where he's in the hallway and Candyman, the Sherman Fields is the version of Candyman is in the like mirror as his reflection. And it's like so fucking bizarre. This is, again, I feel like kind of how the first Candyman was. Like, there's nothing really like flashy or like quick. It's not like a jump scare. It's not like it's there and it's gone. Like, we're holding on it. And it's like a real person in this costume. And it's super unsettling. I loved this interaction with him reaching towards the thing and it's him.
They did such a good job. It was really good. And he did such a good job acting. Because he just looked like so freaked out, very concerned that he was losing his mind.
I feel like He played losing it very well.
Very well. He's such a good actor. I loved it.
Yes. It were some of the shots of him painting, like some of them they did like a bottom up, like straight underneath him. And some of them they did a top down shot. I just liked some of the camera work was like really different and I liked it.
Yes, I have right here. I loved how when he was in the field, oh yeah, right here. It went down to the B and then up from the B.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes, up, looking up at him. Yeah.
Yeah. When they do some camera work too that also is like a nod to the first movie. Like when they do that, like top down zoom in, they did that in the movie too. And there's also, I think, another shot of somebody walking across the bridge where it's this like very wide, slow zoom in. And they did that in the first movie too. So like they definitely pulled in a lot of these details, which I really, really fucking liked. And I even wrote down, I mean, obviously they pulled to like some of the music in from the first movie, which is iconic. I mean, the music from the first movie is incredible. And they pulled it in, but made it different for what they were trying to do. I'm pretty sure. And it works so fucking well. And it's like, you don't lose that recognizability from it. And one of the other details that I just love, and I wouldn't have caught this had I not watched the first movie, but when Helen wakes up in Anne-Marie's house and Anne-Marie is just going at Helen, like bashing her head into the ground, but Helen has this knife and she's like, stop, like, you've got to stop. And she fucking, in self-defense, like nicks her, hits her on the shoulder. And I don't know if you noticed, but in this movie, she has that scar on her shoulder from the fucking altercation.
That's amazing. See, I wouldn't have noticed because I don't remember the other movie. That's why I wish I would have saw it beforehand. So I probably would have thought about that once she revealed herself. That's fucking great.
Yes. It's so small too. It's such a small moment in the first movie. Like for them to pull it in, I just was like,
they could have easily put her in something with sleeves and just forgot about it. But they wanted to be very, consistent of the story.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that.
So good.
That is so good. See, I was wondering, I'm glad you told me that, because when they started talking about she bathed in the Rottweiler's blood, I was like, that moment, I went, fuck, I wish I would have saw the first movie, because I don't think she did. But I wonder what happened to make them say that she did.
Yeah. I mean, she is in a pool of blood. Like
she wasn't doing snow angels, I'm sure.
No. No, but I like how they took that story and made it this like telephone game of the story that happened, right?
Yes,
so there's this like absurd shit. Yeah, totally.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I really also liked the girls getting killed in the bathroom and how you could see it through that compact.
Yeah.
The compact that fell on the ground, and you can see like some stuff that was going on. Now, I felt like the girls being killed in the bathroom was very not random, because I understand she saw the art show and she said that, and then he came and killed them. That's totally what would happen. But it was like so outside.
I agree. It felt very disconnected from what else was happening. Yeah.
Yes. Because what else was happening was so rich and so deep and so much. And let's go to the high school real quick and kill all these kids. But I liked it, and it was scary and almost maybe like, let's add some more gore of the Candyman killing. And that was a way to do it, because she was at the art show. And this is very normal. Everybody I know, including myself, said Bloody Mary in the mirror, right? So they totally would do this. This is not unbelievable. So TT was talking about Bloody Mary. Someone at her school must have talked about it. She came and goes, just the other day. She goes, Mommy, do you know the story of Bloody Mary? And I'm like, I do. And then she drew a picture of it.
Okay.
She's not going to be a serial killer. She's going to be a horror movie director. Remember?
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Everybody remember that.
Everybody remember this. No, but so now she's already been introduced to Bloody Mary. So this is like a totally normal thing that would happen. It just seemed like Candyman is like wrapped up in all of this. Oh, hold on. I just gotta go
real quick.
Do this because these kids, they called me. Let's kill them and then let's go back to the story.
I agree that it felt very disconnected from like the rest of what was. I don't know. It just was like, okay. I don't know. Maybe there's like a reason why that was put in there. I did read some like reviews from people just in like a Reddit thread where they were talking about how they thought maybe that was in there to back up the fact that it wasn't Anthony doing the killing, like before he became Candyman.
Oh,
because I think there's the same thing happens in this movie where you start to wonder, kind of. At least there's this possibility that this person is doing the murdering. So in the first movie, you think it could be Helen because she continues to wake up in these places with a bunch of blood all over her. And you're like, I don't know, are you the one doing the murdering? And you just think
you might start thinking you are at some point.
Right. And is the same thing happening?
Killing everybody.
Right. I would question it for me.
I would think I had some problems.
Yeah. And so then you've got Anthony who shows up in these places where these people are being killed, right? Like the art show and then the art critic's house. And then I feel like maybe that was other people's take because maybe it's thrown in there to kind of establish that it's not Anthony doing it.
I could get that because he definitely was not at the high school. I don't remember what scene was exactly before it, but he was not at the high school. I think I can see that also because the Candyman discriminately kills whoever's calling him, right? But in the end, Anthony Candyman indiscriminately, he's not discriminately killing people. He's indiscriminately killing whoever calls him. But the Anthony Candyman does not kill Brianna.
Right. Yeah.
He's making the,
he is discriminately.
Different. He is discriminately killing. Yes.
Yeah. Based on.
Yeah, you guys know what we're saying.
You know what. Yeah.
He's choosing. He's choosing who he wants to kill.
Yeah. I'm going a little bit backwards, but one of my notes, my first note that I wrote that I just feel like I need to say. One of the things that I love, and I keep saying that about the first movie. I love a lot about the first movie.
We're not going to have to review the first movie because
you're going to know. You're going to know how I feel about it. But I love the idea that, like, in the process of investigating and getting into this, Helen gets absorbed into the legend. Like, there's this, extra fear of if I give this thing too much attention, or if I pay. If I look too much in it and learn too much about it, it's going to consume me in that way. Like, I think that's a scary concept for me. And I love that they pulled that in to this movie because it's the same concept. He gets obsessed and like more and more into this. And obviously there's the background of him being Anthony, the baby from the first movie. And that's probably why there's even more of a connection there. But I just loved that it came through in this movie too. Is just like there's this, added element of fear, like you can't get too close, or else you'll accidentally end up fucking dead.
It becomes
or
all
part
consuming.
Of it. Yeah,
like literally, figuratively, and literally.
Right.
I just said that because people say that all the time. I don't know figuratively it did. Consuming, but it's definitely literally it did.
Just go with it.
I didn't go because it sounds good. People say that figuratively
and literally.
Yeah, no, I agree. As soon as you were talking about her, I was thinking, oh, and in this movie too. And then you said it.
The other thing that I want to mention just before, because I have some cons that I want to get into, but one of the other things that I really loved was the reflective aspect beyond just the first couple scenes. I loved that he could really only be seen in reflections. And they really...
You're right.
They really held that through the movie. I kind of expected them to drop it like halfway through because it's kind of a logistically difficult thing to continue doing. You know what I mean? But they held strong to that. And the only time you see him is in the reflection. So even... the first kill in the art gallery, they're seeing him in the reflection, but they can't see him in reality. And I just really liked that element. It was so like interesting to me to just keep that going.
Yeah, I liked that. That was really good.
And he's like fucking everywhere in the background. Did you notice that? He's like,
yes. Oh, I loved it.
Me too.
Everywhere. You were talking about him. He was ready for you to say his name.
Yeah. And then he was right fucking there. Like after he does it with Brianna in the, window reflection, he's fucking back there. And then
he's back there.
I kept having to lean over to Jade to be like, did you see him over there? Yeah. Did you see him?
I did. I did to Steve. I was like, oh, he's there.
And then there's that moment real quick. This is like semi-related, but I just don't want to forget it because it's so small. But there's that moment after the dream sequence where Anthony is in the bathroom and he's looking at himself in the mirror and he shuts the door on her. And just for a half second, the reflections don't match.
Yes.
It's so good. I liked that.
So good. I agree. All of these little elements were beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up the art gallery. Okay, so this scene, the first kill, it was really cool. I just want to say the one actor, I don't remember his name, but the art gallery guy, right? It was, and maybe this is one of those moments like in You're Next where I'm lost on the comedy. He just didn't seem scared enough. I did like the element of when her throat was slit, and I liked, first of all, that they were chained together at first because that made me giggle because he's a jerk. But when she was on the ground and he was like, is this a joke? Because you would think so. He didn't do it, right? And it would be an elaborate joke that she pulled on him, but what else is it going to be? Because he's standing right there with her. He's behind her. He's kissing her. He didn't slit her throat. And now her throat slit. You would think that person for a split second was playing a prank on you because it's not like somebody ran up and slit her throat and you're not going to think it's a ghost. You're not. You're not initially. Maybe we would, but you're not initially going to think it's a ghost. So he lays her down. He's like, is this a joke? But he just was not fucking terrified enough, in my opinion.
Yeah. This whole scene, I fucking hate. I hate it. It's like the worst part of the movie, I think, for me. Because like I was confused at the end. This was like straight up bad. This was just like, I hated this guy on many different fronts. Number one, I hated him because he is a hateable character in the story of the movie.
Yes.
But two, he's really not delivering, I think, what they wanted him to deliver. Like, he's just not. And I don't know. It seems like it's a combination of his acting and the script. Like, the words that are coming out of his mouth are so just unbelievable. Because I get what you're saying, and I could buy that to a degree. But I don't think that you would say, if you were faced with this type of situation, I don't think you would say, is this real? Is this real? I think he says it like 3 times. Is this real? It's like, no.
I don't remember that.
Maybe I'm making that a bigger deal in my head than it was.
Maybe not.
But I was just like, what the fuck?
I thought initially, because what would you think? If you were behind Jade, kind of nuzzling his neck, and all of a sudden he goes, ah, and there's blood. I mean, maybe not. Maybe you think he had like some sort of a, like, I don't know. I was going to say aneurysm, but I don't think that makes blood come out of your mouth. But who knows? I don't fucking know. Maybe you would think he was hurt, and you wouldn't assume he was playing a joke.
I think
on
I
you.
would just be in shock. I think I would be.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I would be able to say anything because
like, what the fuck is wrong? Like,
yeah, I think I would just be like,
what the fuck is happening?
You just can't process. Yeah, because it's so outside of the realm of what your brain thinks could happen in that moment, you know?
That's true. That's true.
And so all of this dialogue was so off the wall for me because he's like, is this real? And then he's like, gotta move faster.
Yeah.
What are you?
Come on.
What kind of fucking like little kid show?
Faster.
You need to chant it to be able to like learn how to do it? Like, I was like, what in the fuck is happening here? It was so bad. And I don't know. Maybe again, I missed something.
No.
And he was like supposed to be fucking idiot. I don't know, but I hated this part. It was so, I mean, I like the kills and the setup of like the screen of Candyman and the reflections and all of the stuff.
And the screen tearing, but you couldn't see.
Yeah, I liked that aspect. It was a little confusing. Again, this is one of those moments in the movie where I was like, I couldn't really figure out what was happening because I don't think I caught fully that there were these big mirrored sculptures in the room until like later. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I just was like,
wasn't it just reflecting out of Anthony's work?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that was Anthony's part of the installation. So yes, I think he had.
Yeah.
Because he
and
has
then the
like
screen
the
was from
mirror.
that big screen that was playing that stuff over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah.
The footage.
But it took me a minute when you first see Candyman, like, you know, slitting the screen. And then because I was confused for a half second, then I was like, okay, I think I get what's happening. And this is a really clever way to show me that you can see him in the reflection, but not. But it wasn't immediate. Like I had to, I don't know, get with it to understand what was happening. But these two, the art critic guy and his
that
girlfriend,
chick. Steve couldn't stand that woman. He's like, what is even the purpose of this? He didn't like this part at all either. I agree. It just like, he was not scared. And I understand you could always use the argument that people process fear and shock in different ways. But unfortunately, in a movie, you need to make it like how the majority of people would imagine, at least they would react, and you would be fucking terrified.
Right.
You would be confused and terrified. You would be like, and I understand also some people laugh when they're scared. It doesn't translate in a movie when something scary is happening. And this guy seems kind of, he's in a rush, but he's kind of
even when he gets
not
hooked
too scared
through the Achilles, I was like, finally, right? Like finally something cool was happening. I'm like, great. I mean, obviously the gore of her being slit and it was so bloody. I liked that, obviously, because I like gore.
And I liked how it was like he would, as a human, you would be like, whoa, like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
Because,
I like that part too. But then he gets fucking hooked through the Achilles and his screaming doesn't change at all. Like what you're saying, like you're not, it doesn't seem terrified. You would fucking scream for your life if you got a hook through the heel.
God, it would hurt so bad.
It would hurt so bad. So your tone would change. And I just felt like the entire scene was undercut by how not great of a job these fucking people did. And again, I don't know how much is attributed. I mean, I think they were bad actors. And then on top of that, I don't know the degree on how much the scripting was. It's like, did these people fucking ad-lib? It felt like they ad-libbed.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was so weird. Just the delivery of lines was rough.
I agree. Even though he had a chance to save it in just being terrified. I'm sure none of the director or the people on the set weren't like, don't be too scared. Don't deliver too much, okay? Just like really dial back your fear and pain. Yeah. I just doubt that was the direction that they gave him.
I can get how this guy's a fucking douche and we're supposed to hate him so that we enjoy watching him die. Like, I'm on board for that. But I just, even that I didn't buy it. Like, yeah, he's saying things that are a dick and he is a dick character, but like, he just didn't, I don't know, just didn't deliver the way that I didn't buy it the way that I think I was supposed to.
Yeah.
So this part was probably my least favorite.
This part was my least favorite for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
What other cons do you have?
Well, we talked about some of the confusion with the ending, so we're done with that. Other cons.
Oh, I've got one.
Oh, do it.
And a lot of other people have talked about this too. But there is sort of this like loose end of Brianna's father. Like they introduce this as a thing. They're like, oh yeah, like dad's things. And we have to go through the storage. And well, that doesn't even like come to fruition. We don't really learn any more about that. It's just kind of left hanging. And it just does overall feel like this movie had a lot of ideas and they wanted to execute on a lot. And it feels like 30% of it got cut out in the whole process of making a movie. And now we're left with some of these just loose ends.
I 100% agree. I thought it was a fascinating story. But what was the purpose? Because she didn't have, if it was something around her affinity for like staying with Anthony, even though he seemed to be, or her affinity towards artists that might be losing their mind or something like that. Like that didn't need to be a piece of it at all. She could have just been a woman in love with a man and didn't want to give up on him without any history of her dad. And you're right. The brother was like, we have to go through dad's stuff. She's like, fine. I don't want any of his pictures. Okay, that's done. And then she's at the museum with that other woman who is like thinking of like giving her a job or working with her, collaborating with her in some way. And the woman's obviously interested in her because of her past with her dad. And Anthony still didn't need to be past with the dad though, right? She could have been this new interest because of what's happening with Anthony. Didn't even have to have the dad piece.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. Because I think that the purpose of that is to show that all of these people, are interested in the trauma. Like they're way more interested in the trauma of what happened to these people than they are the people themselves, right? Or like what other thing that they have to say or show, just like Anthony with the art critic. And so you've got this scene with her and the dad, but we don't really know what happened. So I think that there's like, as an audience, we don't really have any context. Like we just kind of are left to assume that there is something traumatic that happened to her, but it could have just been with Anthony. Because obviously there's stuff happening right now.
Yeah. Did we have all those scenes in that backstory with the dad for that one, like half a minute scene with that woman interested in her because of her background? And again, it could have been like, oh, now I'm interested in you because of all this stuff that's going on with Anthony.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessary. You're right. It was interesting, but they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. It just lost its way.
Yeah.
Through
I
the
totally
movie.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
I do have to say, I really loved this line. It made me like so emotional where William is telling a story about Sherman, the Candyman, just the normal guy.
Just for the pod, for you guys listening, because I'm going to cut out the first part where I fucked this up. I called him Sherwin Williams. Okay. Called him Sherwin Williams because it just was stuck in my head because of the paint.
So at any point, if in the beginning you heard me say Sherman Tawny called me out. She's like, dude, it's William.
Yeah, we got real.
So I don't know how many times I called him Sherman. Shit.
Sherwin Williams.
Shit. But anyway, William was talking about how he was a little boy and he met who was the Candyman, but just the normal guy who was obviously there was maybe, some mental stuff going on. But in general, he was a nice guy who was handing candy out, right? Yeah. And but come on, man, if you want to give the kids candy, you cannot be coming out of walls.
I know, yeah,
like this is scary shit. Period. But when William said, and that was the first time in my life I saw true fear, and then it showed Sherman, right? Is Sherman not even in the name and not even? Am
Sherman.
I just
no?
Sherman?
You're right.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. And then he saw Sherman as just a man who is terrified.
Yeah.
Because the police were on their way. Oh, it's so quick. It's small. It's there, and I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, and then you totally get that he feels guilty for alerting the cops to his location. He's the reason, essentially, why he is murdered by the police. And it just was a quick moment of, fear. And why wouldn't he think that as a kid? Of course, you would think that
it would be scary. This guy came out
Yeah.
and you're hearing about him. Yeah. Right. And he comes out of the wall.
You think
with candy.
He's the one who's putting the razor blades in the candy? Yeah, totally.
I mean,
Very
you
scary.
would. Unfortunately, that's scary because as a little kid, you would.
Yeah.
And how about, can I ask you, at the end where the church scene, William is like, it has this whole thing, cuts off the guy's arm, puts the thing, okay, we're doing this. He grabs the 2 lollipops with razor blades. He's sucking on them and blood's coming out of his mouth. Like, what the fuck is happening?
I know.
Like, did he have to do that? Did he have to like fuck up his mouth and be, or is he torturing himself because he feels guilty that he got the original guy killed? But he's like eating the candy. I'm like, this is a whole ritual that I don't remember them finding the book on the ritual to bring the Candyman back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because there's just so much happening here.
There was a library scene. Scene. He went to the library, but it was Anthony, not William. But I agree. This is part of why I don't like the end, is because it just fucking comes out of nowhere. And I get that they're trying to kind of get your ass by like, oh, you didn't suspect it was William and now we're telling you it was William. But he just seems off the fucking rails. Now it's like, okay, this guy is totally lost it. Like, just next level, spouting all kinds of crazy shit to her in this church. It just feels like, okay, now this guy's fucking insane for some reason.
Yeah, why is he eating razor blade lollipops and fucking up his mouth? He
seems like he has a very clear idea of like his intention, kind of, now that I understand what it is. And to couple that with like, I'm going to put a razor blade in my mouth. I don't know. It just is very, it's weird. It's a big juxtaposition. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This part was, like I told you, I swear to God, I got to go to the chiropractor because of my whiplash in this part of the movie. I was like, where are we? What's happening?
I do have a note here that it felt longer than 1.5 hours.
I thought it was longer than that too.
Yeah. It's 1 hour and 30 minutes and it felt way longer than that.
It did. And it's because I feel like they really took their time setting it up.
Yeah.
And then it's just in the back 20 minutes or something that's just shit fucking boom, 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 boom. Everything happens so fast you don't even know what's going on. That's where all that time came out, is the end.
Yeah. Shit, we were going to get this done under 2 hours, remember?
Yeah. That does remind me of another con, though, of this movie, is I really wish it had been scarier. I feel like it's, we kind of lose some
There's a lot of dialogue.
Yeah,
more.
and I do feel like it's more focused on its commentary than being a horror movie, which is not like, it is what it is. I don't think it's bad for everybody. And it's not terrible for me. It doesn't ruin the movie, but I felt myself wanting some more really scary moments, and there just weren't a lot. I feel like that part of it, like the scary level, was underwhelming. I didn't love that part.
I'm really glad you said that, because I think that's why it felt longer than it was. Because there was a lot of commentary, and the killing scenes are so fucking cool. Like, it's scary, it's cool, it's gory, that's like fucking scary. Like that the girl in the bathroom while like girls around her are being slaughtered, and you're like, oh my God, I hope he doesn't find her. Is he omniscient? Is he all-knowing? Is he all-knowing? Does he know she's in there even though she's quiet, or no? Does he have to see her? Like, I would, that's scary. If they could have done more of that within the story, the themes and the commentary, but then more of that.
Yeah, I would have loved, obviously I love the gore and the scariness, and it's like, give me bigger, more. I like it. It's scary. The first movie felt like a fucking bloodbath. There was like blood everywhere all the time, at least in the, back part of the movie. But I was like,
I feel like they tried to do that at the end with the big epic killing scene, right? But yeah, it would have been nice to have a little more, because it was so beautifully executed too. Just like I think that woman in her apartment, the critic, and even in the art gallery when he slit her throat and she's just standing there and just boom, it's there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree.
What are we watching next week?
Next week.
We we got to rate it first.
Yeah.
What am I even doing?
I just went with you. I was there for the ride. I was like, all right, next week.
Yep. You're always going with the flow. Okay. So what are you going to rate this movie?
I think I'm going to rate this movie a 3.75 because it was really hard because I rated a few movies a 3.75 where one of them I liked and probably a little bit more as far as my experience with it. But then the other ones I liked this more. But I have some 3.8s that I might have liked. Anyways, there's a lot of explanation. I take it very seriously. So I'm going to stick at a 3.75. There were just some things that kind of made it feel off to me, but I do love the Candyman as a character. I loved this fucking beautiful cinematography. I loved the shadow puppets. I mentioned that. I loved the theme of it. I loved how the Candyman were all of these people over time. And this, I just thought that was all really excellent. It was just some of the stuff that was jumbling to me that kind of threw it off, that if it was different, I probably would have, if those pieces were different, I probably would have rated it higher.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I think I'm in the same boat that in understanding what the intention of this movie is, I like it more, but I'm trying to not let that skew my rating too much because that's not how I felt right after I watched it. And I feel like you can like and change your rating after the fact, but I can't separate, you know what I mean? Like the movie, I don't think it executed the ideas that they were trying to go for as well as it could have. Yeah. So I'm going to give this, I think, a 3.85. That's, nice. I think, my first non-quarter rating. Because I usually stick to a 0.5, 0.25, 0.75, whatever. But this time I felt like I needed to go outside of that a little bit because I do like it more than some of the things that I put at a 3.75. Because I can just appreciate what this is doing, especially in reference to the source material, the first movie. Like, I really like that. And I like how it continues to get looped into the original material, but freshens it up and takes a new lens with it. So I just really appreciate that. And the more that I research and learn about it, the more I like that. But I can't deny that there's flaws in it, and I think some of the writing is just a little shaky. And then that back part of this movie is just so rushed and so incoherent the first time you see it that I can't ignore that, even though now I kind of understand what the intention there was. So that's why I ended up at a 3.85 because I'm splitting the difference. I thought maybe I'd give it a 3.9. But I feel like that's just a little too close to a 4s. My 4s, which are a very precious. High score for me. Yeah. So it's close, but little under.
Aren't you happy I introduced those extra decimal points?
Yes. Yeah. Just for these moments.
Just for these moments. Oh, awesome. I love it. So
now.
That was fun. Next week, we will be watching the 2016 movie Raw. And that was a Patreon pick from Matt. So thank you, Matt, for that. We're very excited to watch this. It's a French horror movie. And the reason I say that is because Tawny and I'm just going to say it. Because you could go to our Instagram, you can see the movies. So we're watching Raw, and it was a French one. And I really have wanted to see High Tension, which is also French. So we're watching that also this month. And I'm like, let's watch French horror movies this month. And Tawny's like, yeah, minus Candyman. But we already had that planned. Right. So we're like, let's do it. But then we're meeting with Josh at the end of the month from Horror Movie Crew, and he wants to watch Scream. So we literally just have a little fall break, hashtag spring break, fall break, 2-week period, all dedicated to French horror.
Yes. First we were talking about the whole month and then we were like, okay, that's not going to work. So it's just like a French horror series. That's just two episodes.
2 episodes, exactly. So we hope you enjoy those. But thank you, Matt. We're excited to watch Raw.
Mm-hmm.
We can't wait. And if you would like to follow us, our main spot is Instagram, and it's at 2 Chicks in a Horror Flick. Really, that is the beautiful hub there, because if you click the link in our bio, it's going to bring you everywhere else. All the other possible places you can go, including Twitter, where we're 2 Chicks HF, Facebook, all of it. So definitely head over there. And Tawny, what else? I feel like whenever I say this piece, it's shorter, and I feel like I'm forgetting more.
I do too.
I
think we're just getting more efficient is the thing.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. So if you want to support the show, you can do so over on our Patreon page. And we also have a Discord server where you can continue the conversation. And you can also be on our Discord server for free. So you can go sign up over there and see the links that we post. Like, we talk about that often. Sometimes we'll post our resources when we do the research for the episodes whenever they drop on Wednesdays. So you can go over there, or you can give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to us, or share this with a friend. That's super helpful. And we hope that you guys have such a good night. No nightmares.